All right, everybody, this is going to be part 2 of chapter 36 in 0 Day. The key to winning chess was to always stay at least 3 moves ahead of your opponent in your mind. Addie had learned that from Mikey. She remembered the first time that they'd met. He'd knocked on her door one afternoon when she was 8, about 3 months after she'd been taken. It was a soft knock, not the authoritative rap, rap, rap that she was used to hearing. Instead, the key scraped gently in the lock and the door slid open slowly. "Hello?" a voice said. It wasn't a man, but a boy. He was only a few inches taller than Addie. He was thin, with olive skin and wispy, light brown hair. "I thought perhaps you'd like to play." His speech was oddly formal, not like any other kid that Addie had ever met. She wondered if he spent much time with other children. He held out a wooden box. "I have chess," he said. "It's all Father lets me play. Do you know how?" She shook her head. "No, maybe you could teach me." She was so excited to see another person after 3 months of near isolation, another kid. She had to restrain herself from running over and pulling the boy into the room. There was something so cautious about him, the way his shoulders hunched and he kept his eyes cast downward, that she was afraid that she'd scare him away if she did. "Can you come in?" Addie said. "If you'd like," the boy said. "I would. What's your name?" "Michael." He answered as if he trod carefully across the carpet, barely making a sound. He set his box on the table where Addie ate her meals every day and began unpacking the pieces, placing them on the board. He held them up as he talked. "This is the king. This is the queen. These are the rooks, the bishops, and the knights, and of course the pawns. White always goes first." "Why?" Addie said. "I don't know," the boy answered. "Those are just the rules." He had a sweet voice that he barely raised and a kind smile. He didn't seem like a Michael, not at all, more like a Mikey. So Addie began calling him that, and he didn't object. Addie began to watch the clock, waiting for his visits. And he came back every day, box tucked under his arm, carefully setting up his pieces and patiently explaining the game. After the 3rd day, Addie had already figured out how to beat her new friend. But as she cornered his king, preparing for checkmate, she saw the boy's face crumple in disappointment. Terrified to lose him, she let him win that day, on the 4th and the 5th day too. And on the 6th day, the man finally let her come out of her room to join the family. Addie craned her neck and watched Darrow disappear around the corner. She hadn't expected to see him come out of Harper's studio, and it was clear that he hadn't expected to see her either. She could tell by the look on his face. It reminded her of when they used to play Go Fish back in the governor's mansion. It was always obvious whenever Darrow drew the card Addie needed. He was totally incapable of holding anything in. Also, Darrow was never late for anything. So what was he trying to hide from her this time? She didn't know, but she would find out, because she was pretty sure it wasn't the ace of spades, and this wasn't a game of Go Fish anymore. Darrow sat at his desk at home. The childish butterfly locket laid out in front of him. The glue Addie's nanny had used to fix it had long since given way, a single broken hinge barely holding the 2 halves of the wings together. Darrow flipped it open and pulled Harper's bug from his pocket. He licked his lips and carefully placed it in the center, breath held. A perfect fit. Darrow exhaled. He unscrewed the glue and squeezed a new coat around the edges. It wasn't pretty, but he hoped it would work. He closed the locket and held it tightly shut, the cool metal leaving wing imprints on his thumb and forefinger. In less than 5 minutes, it was as good as new, or at least as good as it had been 9 years ago. He gave it a shake. The glue held, and the secret inside barely rattled. Now to make sure it worked. He turned on the black walkie-talkie, held it to his ear, and spoke into the locket. "Testing, testing," echoed back at him. Darrow switched off the receiver, shoved it all into his desk, and went to bed, even though he knew sleep would be almost impossible now.